Welcome to Advocacy Advocacy Media. I'm Mark. This is Crystal, Season 2, Episode 42. And we're here today with a special guest who's a painter, also has a disability. He's a very avid painter, and we'll let him tell more about his journey and what he's working on now. Hi, John.
Hi, good afternoon, guys.
Good to see you.
Same here.
So why don't we tell us a bit about yourself, and go back as far as you want to.
Oh my goodness. My favorite subject is myself. So, so sure. Well, I was born with epilepsy, sorry, and some neurological damage and some kidney problems. But growing up, I drew all the time. I loved art. Art was my way of dealing with things. And I was in and out of hospitals a lot when I was a kid. And if I was having a bad day, art was a great way to deal with it. But if I was having a good day, then art was a great way to celebrate it. So I drew every day. And then whenever I was in college, I ended up losing my eyesight. And honestly, I thought my life was over. I thought everything had come to a stop. I thought that was it. I was really fortunate, though, to be going to a university that really, they made a lot of changes. They made it where I could stay in school when I was learning Braille, when I was learning orientation mobility, how to use a white cane, how to relearn how to do everything, basically. And so I had people there that were believing me when I didn't believe in myself, and that made all the difference. But I started learning how to use the cane, and after about a year after losing my eyesight, I could leave my apartment and travel across town and get to the university, and I would still be sweating bullets. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm crossing these roads and stuff, but I could do it. And I thought, well, good grief, if I could get across the city and not get hit by a car or knock over too many people, then surely I could get across something much smaller, like a canvas, if I just use the same techniques. So I started using the white cane techniques and combining it with painting techniques that I already knew, and art techniques, to be able to come up with a way that I could start to draw and paint. And since then, when I first started, this was like 20 years ago, and the idea of a blind painter wasn't really an idea. There weren't really blind painters. There was one guy in Turkey that I didn't know about, and he was doing his own thing, and I was doing my own thing, and and we didn't know about each other. And so I thought I was nuts. To be honest, I thought I was crazy. But art had always been my way of dealing with things, with bad things. So I was very angry, and I was very depressed, and art had always helped me deal with that in the past. So I wanted to get back into that. So that's where it started. And so I started there. I didn't think anybody would ever want to see a painting of mine, but wasn't even a thought. I just wanted to reconnect with people. And oh, thanks so much, Spirit. Sorry, it's coffee, my wife. Thank you, darling.
I gotta have that coffee.
Yeah, I whenever I talk too much, I start coughing. I apologize, so she knows. Pardon me. So it's so the whole reason I can do art is because the amazing people around me, and that's still true to this day. My lovely wife, but whenever I started, though, I didn't think anybody would ever see a painting of mine, and it was just there to help me be able to deal with everything that I was going through, and then it's grown since then. And now the artwork's been sold over 120 countries. I'm the world's first blind muralist. I've done murals across the country, and I work with children in schools. I work with museums. I've worked with the Guggenheim, the Metropolitan, Dallas Museum of Art, museums all over the nation. And the United States has made me a cultural ambassador for the U.S., where they'll send me to other countries to talk about art. And not about art, like, just about art, just art in general, like, trying to bring our culture to other places. And to be honest, I'm still completely blown away. I started painting to connect with people, and I never thought that would work. And to be honest, like, to be on a podcast like here today with you good guys, it's just a dream come true. It's just incredible. I can't believe that I'm able to do art. I can't believe that I'm able to talk to wonderful people like you guys. So
Oh,
it's just, it's been a journey.
well,
And I
that's
apologize
what
if I cough
it's
every once in a
for.
while. I don't know what's going on. There's allergies. I'm calling in from Denton, Texas. We have allergies in the air. It's making me cough a little bit. I apologize.
I
Pardon me. Goodness. Ooh, the coffee's good though.
was saying that's what we're here for, a platform for people like you to connect with other people. There are people out there that obviously you're very well known, but there are people out there that are as deep as you are into depression and not having that I can do things and nothing can help me. It has to help me back. If I just have enough faith and enough, support. So you're in essence helping somebody else realize the same thing. So that's very commendable.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you guys so much for having this platform to be able to reach out, because I know for me, whenever I lost my eyesight, I thought everything was over, but it was people out there that had a positive voice. They were saying just because you have a challenge in your life doesn't mean that everything is bad. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have good in your life again. And honestly, I didn't believe it whenever somebody would tell me that. And I thought, no, everything's wrong. Everything's bad. You just don't understand. I was so depressed and I was so angry, but they were right. And having that wonderful positive voice, having people there that would believe in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself, I know for me made the difference. And depression and anger is so common. It's something we all feel. It's something we all go through. And it's something we all have to deal with, and on a weekly basis or daily basis. Everybody has to deal with disappointments. And sometimes, guys, when I first lost my eyesight, I thought it made me different than everybody else. I thought it made me separate. I almost felt like a ghost, like I existed on this plane, yet I couldn't make any difference. I couldn't touch anything. I couldn't make anything better. I couldn't make anything worse. But I could rage and I could have all the anger that I wanted, but it wouldn't affect anything. I just didn't feel like I had any power in me at all. And then I was fortunate with the artwork because I did some shows. I didn't tell people I was blind, but I did some art shows because I wanted to meet other artists. So I would do the art show. I wouldn't tell people I was visually impaired. And the art shows ended up doing really well. And then some stories got written about me saying, oh, there's this blind painter. And which wasn't really the idea that I wanted. I just wanted people to look at the artwork, but then though I started to be contacted by some different nonprofits and charities around the country. They're saying, hey, can you come talk to our clients? Can you come talk to our people? Let's do a workshop. And I started doing that. And like I say, I felt like, like I was very isolated from everybody. I was very angry, very depressed. Then I started doing these workshops with soldiers that had PTSD, with children that had autism, with adults with Alzheimer's, with people with visual impairments, just all sorts of different disabilities and different challenges. And I started to realize that everybody in their life has a challenge at some point. There's something that seems bigger than they are, and they need help with that. And so instead of my blindness making me different than everyone else, it actually made me more like everybody. And I started to feel better. I started to have less depression. I started, it changed for me. And I started meeting all these amazing people. And the only reason that I'm able to do anything that I do today is because of the incredible people that I have in my life.
Yeah, it makes all the difference when you have the right kind of support. There's support and then there's support,
Heck yeah.
So I had a thought, John, and I wonder, what do you think about this? Now, you mentioned before that art is a way of connecting, right? Way of forming connections and telling a story maybe, right? And you realize that, I guess, before your accident, before you became blind. Now that you became blind and realized how disability makes you kind of, in a way, kind of different and disconnected from people. How do you feel about art being the way you can connect people, but it was available to you in, like, sort of preparing you for this thing that was going to disconnect you, and maybe other disabled people are disconnected from the rest of the world and even from themselves?
Right.
Oh, that's Mark. That's such a great question. I'll try to give it a good answer. One of the things about art is that it's all about communication. It's just about connecting your ideas and your thoughts with other people, and that's one of the most powerful things about art, is that it can cross all bridges. You know, whether it's language, whether it's time. You know, we can look at art from the ancient world and be able to feel the emotions that they felt and understand and make that connection. And you know, the first time that I gave a talk at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, like they asked me to come and talk about art, about my art. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to look up some artists with disabilities, and I'm going to talk about them too. And I thought it might be kind of hard to find that. So I started doing a little research, and I quickly found it was easier to find an artist that didn't have a disability or wasn't separated from their society in some way. You know, all through history, there have been people with disabilities that have done art. And if you go to a museum, you're surrounded by the voices of people throughout history that have a disability and have been dealing with it. The only difference, I think, is that in the past, people tried really hard to hide it. A disability was seen as a very negative sort of thing, and you were seen maybe as weak or as sick. And I have to say, I'm blind. I'm not sick. And I'm not weak, but I have a disability, but I just have other ways that I do things, and that's what we have today. And that's one thing that I think is so beautiful and it's so wonderful. And it's something that art is really good at celebrating, is that everybody has a difference. Everybody has their own unique vision of the world. It doesn't matter if you're a sighted artist or if you're a blind artist, you're going to come up with your own way to communicate. You're going to come up with your own ideas, your own vision of the world and what you think about it, and you're going to express it. And this is the first time in history that people who are blind are really getting into painting. We've had into artwork like this. We've had painters in the past, like Monet and who have been amazing painters. They started losing their eyesight and it changed their art, and they figured out ways to get around it. But this is the first time in history where we have visually impaired people getting into the artwork. And I think that's because it's more access to information, but it's also this environment that you guys, Mark and Crystal, that you guys are making. They're helping to engender, this community where it's okay if you have a disability. It doesn't mean that you don't have any power. It doesn't mean that you're not strong. It doesn't mean that you're sick. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you're like everybody else. You have some differences and you're going to live your life. And the wonderful thing about art too is that it's all about what you can do. It doesn't matter what you can't do. If you want to do a painting, you figure out the best way for you to do that. To do the drawing, to come up with the paints, the techniques that you're going to use. You find out what works for you. The things that you can't do, they don't even enter into the equation. So I think artwork has this wonderful intrinsic sort of value where it makes you focus on creativity. It makes you focus on the positive. It puts you in the moment. I know that whenever I'm painting, I'm not thinking about anything except for what's on the end of that brush, a little bit of paint that's on the end of that brush at that very moment. So I'm in that moment, and it makes a good habit, because then later, whenever I'm hanging out with my family or I'm doing something with my friends, I'm in the moment with them too, and I'm able to appreciate it. So I don't know. I hope I answered the question. I feel like I went on a bit.
Sorry. I wanted to ask, you had mentioned that you pretty much had to go into the painting world, not stating that you were blind, you were blind. And it's really sad when neurotypical people, the only way they can accept you is by seeing what you're capable of before they see you're disabled.
Yeah.
Or sight, whatever. It's really disheartening. But I feel like people like you and a lot of other disabled people we've been in contact with recently are making a way where no, we're not doing, if you don't like me, you don't like me. I'm not gonna bend over backwards for you to appreciate and accept and what I do, what I'm good at. You're also showing people like you that, first of all, they're good enough and they can do the stuff and they don't need somebody else's approval to do it. You're teaching them that they can, whatever skills they have, whatever use they have of skill, the muscles or their eyesight or whatever, they can still be really good at it. And you might have to give them extra tools. But it's a really awesome thing they're doing.
Oh, Crystal, you're so nice, and you're so well spoken, I should say too. I appreciate you saying that. In the beginning, I wondered about telling people if I was visually impaired or not, but in the first shows, I just wanted people to think about the art, and I didn't want them to think about the artist at all, and I didn't want them to think about the vision, and I just wanted to meet other artists. I really didn't think anybody would ever want to see a painting of mine. It wasn't even a thought. I thought, there's no way anybody's going to want to see this stuff. I did it because I needed to, because I was just really angry and depressed, and it helped me deal with that. And the idea that anybody would like it wasn't even a thought in my head, to be completely honest. And then later, when I started working with different groups, and the stories were written, I wondered about, telling people like, hey, I'm a blind artist, about putting that out there, because I didn't want people to look at that first. But then whenever I was working with more and more groups, and I was working with children with disabilities and stuff, then it started to feel more important to me that I came out and said, I do have a disability, because I wanted them to be okay with themselves. And I wanted, so whenever I would go and talk to a school for the blind, or children that have autism, and I'm saying, it's okay. You can do what you want. You can go out there. You can try. You can, you can be what you want to be. You can surprise yourself. And so, so I started to, start saying, I'm a blind painter. I'm a blind painter. And just owning it, because that's, to me, that's no more important about me than the color of my hair, or how tall I am, or how much I weigh. I became blind. I made adjustments. I travel with a guide dog. But on my day-to-day life, I don't really talk about it. I don't think about it too much. It's just, it's just one of the aspects about me. But in my art career, it started becoming more important with the people that I dealt with, because it felt like I work with a lot of charities, and I work with a lot of nonprofits, and that's my absolute favorite thing to do. I work with galleries too, but if I can work with a nonprofit instead of a gallery, I generally do that. And I try to, so that's one of the things that I did with my art career, is that I have a different take on it than most artists that I know. But anyway, sorry, you thank you so much for saying what you said. You're so eloquent, and I'm messing everything up you said. I apologize.
Different. I also wanted to bring up, so you had, when I listened to what you said before, what projects you've mentioned a couple times just now too, that you work with different people. What kind of projects are you working with kids on?
I work with museums quite a bit, and I work with different galleries and services for the blind. And a big part is just making sure that the museums are inclusive, so that if you have a disability, no matter what the disability is, that you can go into the art space and it not just be okay for you to feel warm and welcome, that you have the same access to the art and the ideas and the communication that all these artists have had over the centuries. You can be exposed to that in your schools. If you're a child with a disability and you want to paint, there are ways, or you're wanting to do clay, or you're wanting to do anything, that you have access to that, you can do it. And which is incredible, because I mentioned before that if you go into a museum, you're surrounded by artists that had a disability. And a big reason for that is because artists are people that have something to say. And who has more to say than a person with a disability that has had to overcome an obstacle in their life, that has had to solve problem after problem, that most people don't have to deal with. So it's these people that have lived, I would say, like a richer, fuller life, because they've actually, dug in their heels, and they've embraced all this change, all these things that they have to do to be able to get to the same spot. They may work harder in some ways, and it just changes your perspective on things, and that is valuable, and it's interesting, and it's beautiful to see. So you have all this artwork that's in museums that's being hung, a lot of it being done by artists with disabilities. And it just seems strange to me that people with disabilities today can't access it. It just seems odd. So a big part of my thing is doing that. I'm actually opening my own gallery, and it's going to be a gallery space where I just was at the space today. We were looking at it again, doing another check. But it's going to be an all-inclusive art space where anybody, no matter your ability or disability, can go in and be able to create art, to take in art. We're going to have a gallery space. It's not a huge space, but it's a toe in the door. It's a foot in the door to be able to open it up.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So I'll be up there painting, and then anybody can come and they can work on any kind of thing. It doesn't have to be painting. They can work on anything that they want to create, anything they want to work on. We're working really hard to be able to supply all kinds of stuff. So, but it's also a place where you can get a coffee, or you can get a drink, you can relax, you can hang out, you can meet other people that are like-minded.
Where's this at?
Oh, it's going to be in Denton, Texas. And it's actually called the Yellow Dog Art Gallery, because my guide dog is the yellow dog. So there's always going to be a yellow dog up there.
Okay, we might show up one day.
Oh my goodness, that would be brilliant. Well,
we're outside of Houston.
Yeah, we're near Houston.
Oh my goodness, you're not very far away. Well, come on up, and everything's on me, guys.
Oh, yeah, I was also going to mention, so you pretty much had your hands in all of this, like from the beginning, trying to get seen, to get, people, first of all, just to be seen. Second of all, now you're doing where you're making sure other people can see it, not just that you have art there, but they can also access it, whether it's online or in person.
Yeah, whenever I lost my eyesight, the reason that I lost my eyesight was because I had severe epilepsy. I was born with epilepsy, and then I ended up getting Lyme's disease later on. And the Lyme's disease was undiagnosed for years, because this was 20 some odd years ago in the South, and they weren't really looking for Lyme's disease down here back then. And but it was making my seizures go crazy. And my neurologists, they were thinking, what the heck is going on? And I was just having these massive seizures, and they were trying to control the seizures. So they had me on all this medication. And in some cases, the medications actually made the seizures worse, but I was having seizures that would make my heart stop, my breathing stop. And then have to get that all restarted again. But it ended up causing brain damage, where I lost about 40% of my hearing and all of my vision, and then a little bit of numbness and stuff, and some other little neurological little things. But the main thing was the vision. but my health prognosis wasn't very good. I was told, and that, maybe I had a year to live, maybe, because any seizure could be the last one. And bless my parents' heart, because, because I was in college at that point, but my mom and dad had to hear that. And, I don't think it matters how old your child is. If you're told something like that, but they are so strong. They're so amazing. And they were like, no, that's not true. We're going to deal with this. We're going to get through it. Don't you even worry about it. They're amazing. And of course the neurologists were wrong. I did go through it, I'm still here. I'm not a ghost. So everything was good, but it changed my mentality though, that I wanted to work on things that made me feel good, that I felt were beneficial. I didn't really know how long I had, and art made me feel really good. And it seemed to make other people feel really good. And I really didn't know how long I had. So that's just sort of the road I took. And that's sort of where I still am, in a way, where, my health is way better, but I'm much happier than I've ever been in my life. I'm much calmer. I love sharing art with people, and I love seeing what people come up with. I'm always continually surprised every workshop that I'm a part of, every classroom that I visit. It's just this wonderful continual amazement of people and the beauty of all these incredible people. And I'm not rich, but I don't feel the need to be. I just feel really, I pay all my bills.
That is not no, that's
But I'm
not
happy.
even a thing. A lot of people, especially neurotypical people, they assume, I think, that if you're disabled and you don't have money, then you're not worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that is so not true. As I said before, we've met so many people in the past few months,
Mm-hmm.
starting this journey. And it's just amazing the gifts. People have been held down and told you can't do that, you can't achieve that because you don't have the financial means to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. And now, and that's part of why this platform, we wanted it to exist, because there's people that have been in the shadows and have been, told they can't do stuff.
Oh
And they
yeah.
need to be seen and recognized and know what it gonna give people. People have been telling everybody, no, don't do that. Don't listen to them.
Yeah. And and that's something too. Like me, I live a comfortable life, and I'm very happy, and I feel very fortunate that my artwork has done enough for me able to do what I want. And we're going to open a gallery, and all this has happened, and this is wonderful. And I feel very blessed for that. But but my goal hasn't been to make a whole lot of money. It isn't to be rich. And it's because,
Right.
like, I mean, if I don't know, like, I love my house and I love my family, and if you were rich, I guess you'd buy a little bit bigger house. I don't know if I would love it anymore. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that fancy, so I mean, maybe you'd buy more expensive food, but I don't know. I like what I have now. I mean, I don't know.
Definitely said before, making artists being disabled and realizing, what is not necessary to have, and
Mhm.
what is all we need to be happy, and be comfortable. That's all we want,
Yeah, and
not to have extra. It makes us more humble, when we're like that, instead of thinking, the world has made everybody think that to make it or to be somebody, you have to have everything. You have to be able to talk a certain way, look a certain way, and certainly not have disabilities.
And also, at some point, you come to the realization that if you have all the money in the world, then you can buy the nice cars, the nice house, the
Mhm.
fancy guitars, right?
Mhm.
If people don't understand you, accept you, and respect you for who you are, then it's kind of pointless.
That's a good point, Mark. It's funny that kind of makes me think whenever I was sighted and I would do a drawing of something or a person, if it looked like the person, I think, oh, that's a good drawing. That's a good bit of art. Looks just like them. After losing the eyesight, I still wanted it to look like the person, but it became more important that it felt like them. It's like if one of your family members walked into the room, like if you're in a room with full of people and one of your family members walked in, everybody would look over and they would see the same person. They would see like the same haircut, what clothes they were wearing, all of this stuff. Everybody's getting the same visual sort of information. And yet everybody has a different idea of what that person might be like. Like one person might say, oh gosh, that reminds me of this person I knew, and I didn't like that person at all. I don't like this person. And somebody else was like, oh, I love this person. I love their sense of style. I mean, everybody's got this different idea. So the artwork, it became important for me that it not only looked like it, but it had that emotional quality that you feel too. And I feel like that's the same thing with life, that you can rate life with like, oh, a dollar sign. You can say, well, okay, this person makes this amount of money, therefore they're successful. Somebody else might make a little bit less, but they're happier. Are they less successful, but they're happier? They enjoy their life more. So you start looking at, well, what is the quality of life? You do need to make a certain amount of money to be able to pay your bills and all this sort of stuff. But,
Yeah.
but there's a point.
There's that the question, what is the meaning of life?
Yes.
And, people are so confused about that. And
what is it,
that's
43? I can't remember. On the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I can't remember. Was it 43? I don't remember. I'm sorry. No, I'm a nerd.
So just a bit of a sidetrack, I guess. Once you became blind, what are the differences you see between then and now? Like, what are things that people are doing well in terms of supporting the disability community? What are things that could be improved upon? And a third part of that question, is there anything that people used to that were good that maybe isn't in place anymore?
Oh, I could definitely answer that last part first, in that whenever I first lost my eyesight, the reason that I was able to stay in school was because we had a program in Texas that if you were in university, they wanted to make you stay there. So they would send out Braille instructors, they would send out O&M instructors or orientation mobility instructors. Somebody to teach you, like JAWS and different, screen reading programs and stuff. But they tried to make it so that you could stay in school. And that's not really necessarily the case anymore. Like it was a heavy policy back then, and I'm not sure what the policy is now, but it seems like that isn't necessarily the case, and that's a shame. That's a real shame. It seems like a lot of nonprofits, a lot of agencies that are working for people with disabilities, like their funding have been cutted. Good grief, I'm an English major. Can you tell? Their funding has been cut, and kind of like with the learning, like the white cane training. Oh my goodness, there was a time, and I think they figured it out, where there wasn't any white cane training for a bit, at least on the books, because they cut it from one office, like in the state government, but the other, they thought, oh well, the other place is doing it, or we have this other branch that's doing it, and then they cut it from that, and they thought, oh no, that's okay because this other branch is doing it, and nobody was doing it, and like nobody knew whatever anybody else was doing, and everybody, it was just this weird sort of thing. So so it's really odd. But despite all that, there's still so many opportunities out there. There's still so many good people out there, and we can't give up even for a moment. Like the only reason that we have what we have now is because there's always people pushing. There's always people that have their eyes wide open, that are making sure, and that are there to help support people, because you don't need a ton of money to be able to reach out. And honestly, like the way that I paint, the way that I do things, doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of training. I mean, I basically use O&M skills and painting skills that have been around for centuries, and the O&M skills are new, but combining these things, but it's
What
not
is
like,
O&M?
huh?
What is OM?
Oh, I'm sorry. O&M is orientation and mobility training. So if you're blind, it's how you learn how to use a white cane, and then later on, like a guide dog, like Eagle. But it's incredible. Like, but now though, I travel with a guide dog, and like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'd never been to Washington, D.C. before. But I was invited to the Kennedy Center. They wanted me to go up there and do some live painting. So I went up there to paint live, and it was just me and Eagle because my wife couldn't go. So, but the techniques and the strategies and the accommodations that we have now are so strong that me as a person who's completely blind can fly from Dallas and go up to Washington, D.C., where I've never been, and go to the Kennedy Center and be able to do a live painting where I'm working on a big painting.
Yeah.
And be able to get around and be able to navigate and do that, and then be able to get back home and be able to do it by yourself. Well, with Eagle, I mean, Eagle's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm going to be honest, my guide dog, but but with a smart dog and a smartphone, you can do pretty much anything.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, so I know that a lot of funding has been cut and a lot of things are hard, but it doesn't mean that you can't do what you want to do. It might mean that we have to get a little more creative, and it might mean that we have to raise our voices a little bit more so that more things aren't cut and we can get back what we needed, but it's definitely not hopeless because we're not helpless. So, we can make the changes happen.
Right. Definitely. I feel like those programs that were in place, they were excellent programs. They were very useful. Now, I also feel like those programs have been taken advantage of and used the wrong way, and people have not been able to take advantage of them because the funding has gone to things that shouldn't be going to. So I feel like if we can turn the tables and get that funding back to the right people who actually need it, that would help.
You're so right, and it can be so disheartening too whenever you lose funding and whenever you see programs go away. But I think we need to take a long view too and look through history and see how far we've come, and that even though we do get pushed back a little bit, we keep moving forward, and so we can't be discouraged, and we've got to know that, historically we're going to keep moving this bar. I mean, the way that my grandparents, their generation would have viewed someone with a disability. Not my grandparents in particular. They were really open-minded sort of people, but in that generation, it was very different than like my parents' generation. And then it's different than my generation. And then my son's generation is very, very different. It's even more progressive. And, he's like, a disability, what does that matter? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. It's, like, oh, somebody's a different race, somebody's a different disability, somebody's, whatever. People are people, people do what they can. And I'm like, yes, I love your generation, buddy. Way to go.
I know, it's great.
So I don't know, but I'm optimistic because I have faith that we have good people raising some good kids, and that there's a lot of negativity out there, and there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of ignorance, but we can correct ignorance through education, and misunderstanding we can fix through education, and I feel like we can take care of most of the problem.
Yeah, well, it's definitely from the top, government to corporations, and down the line, governors and senators, and other way around, but whatever. I feel like it definitely comes from that direction where they've told people what to do and how to do it and how to treat people and where the money needs to go and things like that, and their hands have been tied on how they can do things and help people. And that needs to change.
I think you're right. I think it's just a complete misunderstanding of what a disability is. I mean, and correct me if you guys feel differently, but I feel like there's just a misunderstanding of what disability is. And I feel like if a person is lucky to live long enough, you're going to acquire a disability, which means you just can't do something the way that other people can. So if you live long enough, you're probably not going to be as mobile as you used to be, or your vision is going to start to go, or your hearing. And, and if you look at accommodations, that's the big thing with law, it seems like. I feel like we're supposed to be talking about art, but I love this, because this is my passion. I just love this stuff. You guys are brilliant.
Your platform to be able, if you want to
Oh my
talk about
gosh.
art half the time, and then
Well-
you want to dialogue with us,
Oh,
we're here for you.
well, we are so kind. Thank you so much, Crystal. But whatever you guys want to talk about, but I would like to say this one thing, because the big thing I think with the government and with all is like, what kind of accommodations do we need to make for people with disabilities? And that seems to be a big thing, because that's really like, why even label somebody disabled? It's because you have to make accommodations. So, it's things like curb cuts. Like if you're on a sidewalk and there's the curb that goes down so that a wheelchair can go up on it. That's really handy for lots of people. If you have arthritis, if you have a family and you have a stroller, if you're a business and you've got stuff on a dolly, those curb cuts help everybody. Easy open doors is an ADA sort of thing. And, doors have one job. They open. I mean, every door should be easy to open. I mean, that's just the job of a door. Things like a bathroom stall, like a big bathroom stall is an ADA thing. But I've never been in a bathroom and heard somebody complain because the stall was too big. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes a big bathroom. And elevators is an ADA thing. And I've stood in line for an elevator, but I've never stood in line for the stairs. Everybody likes elevators, and all these things that we do to make accommodations for people with disabilities. It's just things that are improving everybody's lives. It's things that everybody can use. If you're a really athletic, person, you're probably going to get a sports injury at some time. You're going to hurt your elbow, you're going to hurt your knee. Having a door that's easy to open is good. Having a curb cut's good. You might be on crutches. You got that skiing accident. Everybody at some point is going to use some of this stuff. And it's just making life, it's just designing our environment so that it's good for people, and we can say that it's good for people with disabilities, and it's true, but it's also good for everybody, because unless you never have children, or you never have an injury, or you never get sick, or you never get old enough to have some sort of age related thing, unless none of this ever, or if you don't have someone that you love that some of this happens to them, you're never going to need any of this. But even Superman himself wouldn't fall into that category. Even his mom got elderly. This is just stuff for everybody. And anyway, that's my high horse. I'll get off of it.
Well, one more thing. Now you're blessed to be a gifted artist, and you can do all these great things and do speaking engagements like through your art and all that stuff. But you probably well know most people who have disability have to make their own career, right? Like generally there aren't jobs out there for them unless you find some employer who's really open-minded and really generous and just really considerate that all people are equal, right? Which is not the vast majority of them, frankly. So how do you think people should, or what do you think should be done to give more opportunities to people with disabilities, not as like a handout, but just because they're going to work hard and they're going to, they're not any less capable, they just need some accommodations.
Oh, Mark, that is such a great question. And I wish I was a smarter person so that I had a good answer. But one thing that I think is really important for business owners to know is that I think it's a brilliant idea to hire people with disabilities, because if you have two candidates that walk in and they have the same education, they have the same experience, they have all this different things that's the same, but one of them has a disability, then you know for a fact that that person with a disability has had to face problems. They've had challenges. They've had to think outside the box. They've had to duck and dodge, and they've been faced with stuff. And in your business, you want an employee that can do that. Like, you want, like, if things are going bad at your business, you want somebody that isn't going to fold, that isn't going to cave. And you're not going to find anybody that's stronger than a person who's had a disability and has worked past that. And it's something that I think a lot of business owners don't, it's just, it doesn't occur to them, and it's funny because I'll have friends, and I won't name them, but I'll have friends that are like really gifted. They're amazing. They've never had a sick day in their life, but they have a master's degree, and they're working, but oh my goodness, the drama in their life, from like, oh, my coffee isn't hot enough, and this or that. And it's just like constant, like, they're just finding stuff all the time. So it's like, my goodness, if I had if I was an employer and I was going to hire somebody like that, or somebody else that met all the qualifications but had a disability, and they weren't, and they knew what actually mattered, getting down to the bottom line of things, being able to, if there is a problem at work, they're like, you know what, I've seen worse, I think I can deal with this. That's the kind of person, that I would want to hire. And I know for me, like, in the art world, the idea of a non-visual visual artist wasn't even a concept when I started. But like I said, when I started, I didn't think anybody would ever want to see a painting of mine. And the thing with galleries and stuff is that they're business owners, and they pay their rent every month, and they're not being mean. They love art. They love art. They love it. And they love people most of the time, but they have to pay their bills though. So generally with a gallery owner, they want to get an artist in that has a proven track record. Like, they have sold art, and they know it's a guaranteed sort of thing. Like, they can get them in. All right, we're at least going to sell something, and we're going to be able to pay the rent. That's nice. And maybe we'll even be able to afford some ramen this month or something. We'll be able to eat. But that's what they want, so as a new artist, it's really hard, like for a new artist, whether you're sighted or not, to break into the gallery system, because how do you get a track record if a gallery won't ever show you because you don't have a track record? It's an oxymoron. Now, if you're a blind artist trying to get into the visual art world, vision is the very first word. Visual art. So it seems like vision would be pretty important. So it would seem like it would be an impossible kind of thing. And I was really fortunate though, because before I started working with galleries, really, like, I did a couple little things, but I started working with museums, and I started working with them because they wanted to be more inclusive. So I would start doing workshops and talks there, and helping them be more inviting spaces. And then suddenly on my resume, I've got like, oh, you've worked with the Metropolitan, you've worked with the Guggenheim, you worked with the Metropolitan. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I was there. I did some things. We did some stuff. They're like, yeah, why don't you come show your artwork? So like for me, I accidentally backdoored the art system.
Yeah.
I fell in
Well,
backwards into it, but I was there, and I was persistent long enough where I don't know, I was able to wear people down, I guess. I don't know. But I make it harder on myself, because when I work with a gallery, I have rules where we have to give workshops to people, and the workshops need to be free, so that anybody can come in and learn how to paint with me. Or if they're not free, like, it's okay to charge, but that money is going to go to something. It's going to go to like a nonprofit. It's going to go to a charity. It's going to go to, something. And that makes it a little harder to get into galleries too, because you're telling them like, hey, you know what? We're going to donate some artwork to it. We're going to do some workshops, and you're not going to get paid for that. But I've been really fortunate that it actually has worked out. So that's been a good thing. But it's hard, and it's, it can be a difficult sort of thing, but I don't know. Like I say, I wish I was a smarter person, because you're right. It is hard, and sometimes, like, if you're going to get a job, let's say if you're a person in a wheelchair, you're limited to places that are ADA compliant. So automatically, any place that's in an old building, if they're on the second floor and it's just an old building and the whole building was grandfathered in, like, you can only apply to the businesses that are on that first floor, so I mean, it isn't fair, and it's different. But I think that's why we need to be a community, and we need to stick together, and we need to keep pushing, because, I don't know, because a lot of it isn't fair. So I don't really know the answer to it, except that we just push back a little bit harder.
You would think that people would work a lot harder and be a lot more accepting and driven to want to make things inclusive and want to set the world up for whatever predicament, disability, or situation, whether it's temporary or permanent disability, like whatever they get into later on, because at some point, statistically, everyone is going to need it.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't they want to set up a world now that everyone can be included at any point in their life?
You're
They're
so
not
right.
ever.
Oh, yeah.
It seems a bit like, you know, a lot of money is spent by the government on like foreign stuff, like funding a war in some country nobody's ever heard of, or with people nobody has any argument with, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like going out and tending to your garden while your house is on fire or something, right? Because there's so
Yeah.
many problems. There's so many problems at home. Like, people with disabilities are practically living in poverty, right?
Yeah. And
And
it's,
those are people that can be contributing to the economy.
yes. And, and we're not a small group either. I mean, at least 20%, but most polls show higher, of people with disabilities. And it's funny, you see some businesses that embrace it, like if you've ever been to Vegas, oh my goodness, that's a wonderful place to go with a disability, because every place is compliant, because they know 20% of the country has a disability. They want everybody to come. They want everybody to be able to get into their door. They want everybody to be able to get in the elevator, to get into the casino, to get into the shows, spend their money, get into the restaurant. They designed it so that everybody can go. And and I'm not saying everybody should go to Vegas, but I mean, but it's that mentality that that's a huge amount of a population. And so if you realize that, if you're just looking at it from a dollars and cents sort of vantage point, as a business owner, it only makes sense. I mean, you want everybody to be able to come into your business. You want everybody to be able to spend their money in there, and be welcome in there and feel good about it. But, as a political force, I feel like if we could all get on the same page, if everybody with a disability could get together and say, hey guys, you know what? We're all going to vote the same this year, and we're all going to make it out to the polls. We could change the entire country. I mean, we could, we could change everything. I mean, 20% minimum, I mean, geez, that's huge. I don't, that's asking a lot, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. We were watching a show the other day, and it was, in Times Square. And I mean, that is a terrible place for disability, for accessibility. I mean, sure, the sidewalks maybe, but it's very crowded. And then you have the shops that are so close together and so small, and there's not any bathrooms, especially disabled, accessible bathrooms, you know, so, I mean, they seem to be only worried about, technology and money and, in the high class stuff, and anybody that is not those things, we don't want you here, and it's very evident by the way they make things inaccessible.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. New York is a challenge. I love New York, but it is a challenge for a lot of reasons. And, like you go into a little restaurant and, they may have a bathroom from, 80 years ago. It's a little closet, and if you're a person with a walker or you're a person with a, has to use a cane or, a cane's okay, but it's just, oh my goodness. Or maybe up a weird steps, like you got to go up 3 steps and then go down 2 steps for some crazy reason, then go around a corner, and then suddenly you're in the closet bathroom. And you're like, well, this is weird. But it's because it's been a million different things in the time that building's been there. And
Right.
it's odd. It is really odd. And you're right, everything is so tight and so compact there. It makes it for some challenges, and it makes it even in the hotels a lot in New York, it's that way, and so you have to be so careful going in. And I know like I always travel with a guide dog, and that can be a little bit different depending on where you're going and stuff. And so it's just, I don't know, it takes more research than the average person has to do.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it's a doable thing. But I'm one of those people too, though. So if I go somewhere and I find a place I like, I remember that place and I go back to it. So I'm like, oh yes, I can get into that bathroom. I know where that bathroom is. I'm going back to this restaurant, and everybody's really friendly. Everybody's, so, but it does make you always have to have a plan B. It seems like when you're traveling in a new place sometimes. And here in Texas, it's a little bit easier in most places because things are more open. It seems like, where things are spaced out a little bit. And a lot of it is newer, at least, I mean, compared to New York, it's newer. Like going to Boston and New York and places like that, it could be a little New Orleans, like some places that have been around a while. Yeah. They aren't exactly compliant.
So, to get back to the art, is there anything you're working on right now that you want to show us, want to talk about, maybe?
Oh, we could if you want. I mean, I'm always working on stuff. I have a painting here that it looks terrible, but I can show it to you. It's a commission. Mostly what I do is commissions. Here, I don't know how much is going to be see. You're probably going to see part of it. It's like a 4 foot tall by 3 foot painting, but it's going to be a park painting, and it's a commission. And there's going to be a tree. Well, the tree's there. It's only about halfway done, so there's going to be a lot of vibrant color and a lot. So I've been working on it a while. It should be more than halfway done, but I keep changing things. So, so it's
Awesome.
but
Would you
hopefully
mind
it'll be fun.
Would you mind having your wife take a picture of it and sending it to us so we can post it?
Yeah. And hopefully, I'm not sure when you're going to post this podcast, but hopefully I'll have the painting done. I might be able to send you all a done picture
It's
of it, a painting of it when it's done. I mean,
actually, we're gonna do it Monday.
oh,
It's Monday.
So
So
maybe
no, it's good that you're gonna see it in the middle of it before you're done, because we want to follow the progress of it.
oh,
It'll
yeah.
be interesting to see.
Well, I hope it turns out. You never know. You never have a guarantee with any of that, but
yeah.
so hopefully it'll turn out.
Well, yeah, don't kind of rush and to finish it before Monday.
We
Yeah.
can invite you to our Facebook group or our Mighty Networks community, and we can you can share the progress of it there, or
Yeah,
Oh,
and
thank
then we
you.
just launched a website too. So we have a spotlight section, and if you would like to send me some of your work, or if you have a website, I can post that in our spotlight.
Oh, thank you. I do. My website is, everything is just my last name. It makes it really easy for me, so I don't forget it. But my website is bramblitt.com, and my Instagram is Bramblitt. My Facebook's Bramblitt. So everything's just Bramblitt. And I have Bramblitt on Twitter, but I never go on Twitter. I need to tweet more, but I forget about it. At the end of the day, I think, oh, I should have tweeted.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, we're kind of like the
yeah.
Twitter,
We don't really we try to spend as little time on social media in general as possible. Because
Mhm.
you probably know this too, like especially in the disability community, there are positive voices, but a lot of them are just negative voices, and
yeah,
you know,
Oh, yeah.
some of the comments, like I said previously, if you don't have the right support and the right people in your corner, not being passive aggressive about trying to be nice to you,
Mhm.
then I mean it's a wonderful thing. But social media is often met with the other side of that
Oh, isn't
too.
that the truth? Oh my goodness. You
Yeah.
guys are so right. I've been fortunate, like on Facebook. I do a Facebook Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. And it's been the most positive sort of thing. We've been so fortunate, but my wife and I do it, and we started really during COVID because you couldn't hang out with anybody. So we started doing it, and we would hang out with people, and I'll paint, and we do it for about an hour, and we'll play games, and we usually give away some artwork and stuff like so if somebody wins the game, then we'll send them a print of whatever they want, and we just chat. But it's some of the most positive people. It's just, we just have a core group of people that are really optimistic, really positive, really encouraging. So yeah, but you're right though, especially like there's comments that'll come in, and but I'll be honest, they don't even bother me anymore. I don't even, because like anybody writing a negative sort of thing, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's probably a 12-year-old boy that's just being angry somewhere. And I mean, because the internet goes to everybody. So you're like, all right, well, that's you. And then it's on to the next one. And I don't know. Negative stuff doesn't bother me like that too much, but I know what you mean though. Cause like, you turn on the news, you turn on, all this, you can just be inundated by negative stuff. So I really try to find social media that's positive, the people that I really, really like, that are, that are being honest. And they're not necessarily, they're not saying every day is like, oh, every day is wonderful, every day is rosy and shiny and all that. They're just being honest, so, but they're not also like being negative about everything all the time. Ugh. But yeah, I'm not the greatest on social. I always forget to post until something's over. And I think, oh man, I should have posted that.
Anything else?
Mhm.
Well, John, it was great to talk to you again. You're an amazing guy with amazing
Mark, thank you.
talents, and thank you for sharing it with us. And hopefully this episode will give others out there some hope that, like you said before, having a disability isn't the end of the world.
Oh, Mark, Crystal, guys, thank you guys so much. And I hope I get to meet you guys in person one day. If you guys are ever up in Denton, please reach out, and because hopefully the Yellow Dog Gallery will be open, and then we can treat you guys over there. If not, I'll make sure you guys have a good time up here, no matter where we go. But thank you guys so much, and thank you for the podcast too. I appreciate that so much. You guys do an amazing thing. Sorry, my brain is like the.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, John. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Y'all too. Thank you. Have a good time.